In this video, we're going to cover how to jump a capital ship in EVE Online to a system without a station, which has many benefits. It gives you a lot more options in where you can jump. It allows you to jump into systems that are more friendly, or I should say less hostile. So it's going to be a more advanced technique, so you need to pay attention pretty closely. The frigate that we're going to choose is going to be a T1 frigate, nice and cheap. Everything's going to be meta 0. It's going to be using stasis webifiers. 3 of them is the key. And this is the 2 most important parts in choosing your T1 frigate, which is going to limit a lot. The choice is going to be kind of specific. And as the frigates change in the winter expansion and as time goes on, you're going to just have to follow these rules. You need to make sure you have at least 2, ideally 3 stasis webifiers, because this is what's going to get your carrier out and away from the Sino field. That's the safety of your carrier. 2 at least for inertia stabilizer, so you can warp out quickly and not be pointed and killed before you get to your destination where you're going to light the Sino. This is going to be for fast movement. Not quite as important, but it is your time. So finding a frigate with 3 medium and 3 low is going to be a little bit more difficult, but then a frigate that can have, depending on your skills, mine requires enough Sino for 180 cubic meters. That's how much it takes. Finding a frigate that has a cargo size that large limits your selection a lot. If you can get that Sino skill trained up, you won't need quite as much, and it could open up a lot of options in the frigs. Alright, and the last thing would be the Sinusoid field generator. This requires at least 20 power grid. So any frigate with exactly 20 power grid or below is not going to work, simply because you won't be able to fit these other modules. You'll need probably 5 or 6 power grid just to cover these guys. Okay, the rest of them aren't really important, since this is a frigate that's going to warp out quickly. If you chose to use a T1 cruiser, it's a pretty cheap option as well. But you'd probably want to make sure that you had at least another extra high power slot that you're going to use, and another extra medium slot for medium, so you could have the you could do the cloak warp trick. That's 10 seconds of being, a little bit vulnerable. You will be cloaked, hopefully, but that's 10 seconds that you're going to be remaining on grid. That increases your exposure time. Anyhow, I'm going to go with the T1 frigate. This is what I'm going to go with for the fit. And we're going to go ahead and move to our non-station system. And even if it has a station but is unfriendly, it's the same idea. Okay, so this is the frigate. It's going to move in position. It's going to create some bookmarks. And I'm going to show you how to use the corporate bookmarks to your maximum advantage with this technique. It'll save a lot of effort. Okay, so our system is going to be in MV. I'm going to go ahead and warp them there now. There we go. Now the carrier is going to be fit with capacitor, so he can make multiple jumps very quickly. He's not going to have a station to, replenish his cap. As you know, if you dock and then undock, your cap will be completely replaced, and cap generation isn't really that important. This more advanced technique does require that you have 3 capacitor rigs and 5, we're going to be using the Thanatos, so 5 capacitor rechargers. Now let's see, alright, MV. This is a system in nullsec. Now, as you're moving through the systems, you'll want to keep an eye on local, especially when you get near the target. And you'll ideally want to find a target system that's going to have the least number of hostiles, neutral and red, in and around the area, just because basically you're going to be wanting, when you light that Sino, to get that carrier out of the Sino area as quick as possible. Carriers cannot move through gates like this frigate can, so it's relying on this Sino to move. And once that Sino goes up, people in system will see it, and people around can look for it and see it if they're specifically looking for it, which isn't really something that is very common. Alright, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to add planets to our overview. So now we see all the planets, and this system looks like a maximum range of about 17 AU. I prefer larger distances, but it'll work. So what we're going to do is we're going to warp to 100 with our people and places open. Make sure it's open to avoid any issues, any problems. And what I'm going to do is I warp to 100 to it. So I'm going to add a location. And I'm going to call this my Sino spot. I'm going to add it to a corporate location that I've already created. And as soon as ideally I would have done that between those two systems, between those two spots. When I look on the map at the system, the solar system, I'll notice the bookmark that I created, Sino spot. It's 0.82 AUs from me. That's not really ideal. I wanted to get it like 8 AUs, ideally, but it works. It's going to be the Sino is going to be broadcast anyways, so people will be able to warp directly to that spot, my Sino spot, easily. Looking on local, it's still clear. This is the checks I want you to do when you do this technique. And so let's see. Here's a safe at 14 AU for me, but it's kind of close to that planet. Where am I going to put a safe? Probably put a safe just between these two, somewhere right around here. It'll be close to this planet. What other options are there? It's not much. All these planets are pretty much in line with each other. So this would be my Sino, and the next spot will be the safe for my carrier. I'm going to go ahead and warp to 100. Now I always warp to 100 just so that if there is somebody at that place, and that's really if there's someone else in here, add location. And I'm going to say carrier safe. If there is someone over there, that was even worse than this other safe spot. Alright, so if there is someone over here, I can quickly warp out and they won't be able to point me. Alright, so let me try that again and show you how I'm going to make that safe between those two. Now, the further away it is from any object, the longer time it'll take for people to figure out where you are and scan. But since this is going to happen all so quickly, it's not really so important. The most important part is it's not at any particular celestial object that you can just warp to. They will have to actually scan out any one of these bookmarks. I might as well use that for my carrier safe, because as soon as he gets there, he's going to cloak, and that's part of this. That's part of this technique. Alright, so let me go ahead and get out of this view. I'm just going to go to my my Sino spot. I'm going to bring my carrier into the picture. So this will be the carrier. It's got a tank in the bottom with Omni Resist and a DC2. This is a solid Omni tank, 2 cap wrappers. It has some DCUs, but the important thing is this improved cloaking device. The rest is cap. Now for fighters, you will want to have the fighters, so we're just going to grab some Templars, because this is the drone control units are useless without drones and fighters. So we're going to buy, let's say 17, or let's just buy 19. Buying 19 will fill all but 5,000 of this drone bay at 100,000. This is the largest of the carriers. With the other carriers, you're going to be looking at smaller numbers of fighters. So we'll buy those, put them in. As you notice, there will be 5,000 left. And with that, it should be filled with mediums, lights, and so forth. I'm not going to do it because that just take a lot of time. But you want to have ECM drones. You want to have any drone you can imagine. It's the great thing about carriers. Motherships don't have those options, so all you have is fighters and fighter bombers. You're pretty limited. It's a huge nerf to the super caps, and the reason that I'm not going to go into a super carrier anymore is really looking forward to the Nyx, but I'm just not going to do it because I need to have all those other drones. Alright, so this is really a good setup for the carrier. He's going to come out. Now if he is in some kind of low-sec system or null-sec, you'll want to make sure that you know what's in local. And so since I am alone here, it's all fine. Now stopping right in the undock means that if there are people in your station, they'll bump you out just by docking and undocking and running into you, and then docking and undocking and running into you, and bumping you out of the station and dock at very large speeds to try to just get you away before your timer, and then point you so you can't actually dock because you'll be continuously bumped. So if there are a large amount of people, especially in the same core alliance in your station, that are not friendly to you, just keep in mind that that is a tactic that could lose you your carrier. I'm going to get this off the screen. And alright, so he's moved off a little bit and he's ready to go. I'm just going to control space right here because he's a little bit off the undock, and we're going to go back to our Sino. Now ideally you'll have somebody that is a Sino separate from you, so you don't have to manage these two yourself, and they'll understand and hopefully have watched this video. But what he's going to do is, of course, if there are people in here, he's going to be warping between different places and different safe spots, but when he's ready, he'll be at this carrier safe. And if you notice, this carrier, actually, let me just bring it up in people and places. And this should be up before you actually jump. The corporation bookmarks will show, let's see, it's going to show the carrier safe, and so you're going to want to have that ready so you can right click and jump to it, of course. Alright, so, but that's the neat thing about the corporation bookmarks, is it's an easy way to get the bookmark from him to other people in your corporation. You'll have to be in the same corporation as your Sino alt as a condition. You also need to be in the same fleet, so I'm going to go ahead and fleet him up. So I right click on the person I want to fleet. I'm going to say form fleet with. I'm going to go back and accept the fleet. We're in fleet. The Sino will work now. I have my fuel, the carrier has his fuel, and we're ready to go. So here's what I'm going to do. One last check on my local. I'm going to activate the Sino, deactivate the Sino. Lovely animation. The carrier is now going to check his local. He's going to right click on the capacitor or right click on his ship, jump to the Sino. The capacitor goes down to 30%. And what he's going to do now that he's in system is he's going to immediately warp to the carrier safe. That moment, the frigate will have been locking him, and he'll engage all three of the webs. The carrier will instantly warp, minimizing the time at the Sinosauр field. It'll probably be a matter of a second or two that it'll be actually at that field. So once that Sino is up, people can see it and warp to it. So what you want to do is once the Sino comes up, carrier jumps immediately, gets locked and webbed, and he'll be out of there in a couple of seconds. So he goes to the carrier safe spot. This guy is pretty much just sitting in the water. You might want to have these up here so you can just push F2, 3, 4 as you start locking, F2, 3, 4, and once he's locked, boom, he's gone. Carrier's at a safe spot, and as soon as he lands, he's going to F1 cloak, and then he can't be scanned. He's not seen, he's not scanned, and his capacitor is recharging. Once he's ready to go to the next one, of course, he'll decloak, right click, and jump and do the whole thing again. So this is where the Sino alt, if he knows how to do this more advanced technique, he can have these bookmarks set up for him. He can have the webs ready for him, and the carrier has a very minimal chance of being caught. So hope you understood all those steps, and if there are any questions, please comment, please like this video, and see some of the other videos that have to do with more basic techniques, or with the cloak MWD tricks and things like that can really help you moving around and getting those Sinos up for the carriers. Thank you, have a great day, and see you around.